Stop turning so much that you ruin your hip tilt. You mean to tell me that nobody has talked to you about hip tilt and knee tilt and how you can ruin it by turning too much? Too many swing gurus out there creating new terminology for stuff that's been out there for 100 years already. Hopefully by the end of this video you'll understand the importance of hip tilt and knee tilt. Let's get going. Good evening, Lion Golf Academy members and guests, and welcome back. Yes, this video is about hip tilt and what causes it and what can cause your swing and what headaches it can create. So I know we got Tiger Woods on the left hand side. Now I chose him just because he has really good hip tilt control, and what affects that control is how he stays connected on his way down and utilizes the correct hip tilt. If you followed us on our last series, that's Harrison on the right hand side, and he missed his deadline for the final submission, so I decided to use his swing for this one because I think this will help you, Harrison. So I think you might get a little bit more out of this than the final evaluation. And this is a problem I see that is overlooked in the instruction world. We so focused on turning. All you hear nowadays about shallowing and turning and getting the lag going and just releasing at impact, but we always forget about the hip tilt, most notably the knee tilt. So what we're going to do is go to the very top of the swing, and we can see the amount of shoulder turn that Harrison has on the right hand side. So what we're going to do is draw a shoulder turn line just to show you that line, and also Tiger's shoulder turn. So we can see shoulder turn is important, but if you start overturning, what happens is you start pulling your left side and your left side starts to break down. And if you notice on Harrison, we're going to change the color here. We're going to do some yellow lines for the knee tilt. So we're going to draw kneecaps together and extend it out, and the hips are typically the same angle as your knees unless you have some deformity or you have legs like Gumby. Now if you take a look at right side, we're going to do the same knee tilt for Tiger and the hip tilt for Tiger. Now why is this important? Because we look at the ball in relation to the tilt. Now I know that Tiger's playing, it's probably one of his Tiger knockdown shots, his Tiger stingers, but we can look at how he utilizes that tilt correctly. So what we do is we draw a line from the golf ball 90 degrees on his tilt. So that's basically where his axis is in relation to the golf ball. Now we need to find out where Harrison's ball is, so let's just zoom out a little bit. So I've pulled Harrison a little bit higher so we can see where his golf ball is. So we're going to do the same line for Harrison's golf ball and take a look at where his 90-degree axis is. So we can see already by him turning too much, it's going to pull his left side. His left knee's going to break down, increasing his knee tilt and his hip tilt. Now what that does is it increases his angle of attack, meaning that he is going to be much steeper because things are tilted towards the target, and it increases his lines away from his body. So we can see Tiger's left hip is still connected. Now obviously this might have to do with his ball position being far back, but what he does on the way down can show you how to utilize your tilting correctly. I'm going to do one more line in green to show the relationship between the center of his chest and his hip tilt. And these are all very important. We can see the center of the chest. If we draw it straight from that 90-degree angle, we can see how much more Harrison has turned, and he needs to be on a straight line matching that tilt. So everything starts to work very linear with the best in the world. And you can kind of piece this together of what will happen. So let's continue with the swing and let's take a look at what happens on the first move down. So we can see Tiger, his knee tilt remains the same. Harrison, because he has more knee flexion, is going to have to straighten this out eventually. And this is where we start to see a little bit difference here. As we come down slightly into impact, we can see that Tiger's new hip tilt is slightly less than his backswing. So let's draw this one now in red, Tiger red. So we can see there's his hip tilt, and his knee tilt is going to be parallel to that line. And we take a look at what Harrison is doing. You can see Harrison's knee tilt is getting a little bit more because he's trying to right himself. And what you'll also notice is Tiger's left side is definitely pushing towards the target. As a result, he's not necessarily turning and straightening out his tilt. Now when you straighten out your tilt, you are more prone to turn. And we can see past this point, we see how Tiger's hips slow down while his upper body catches up, where Harrison still continues to turn. As we keep rolling forward, we can see slightly before we get to impact, we can see Tiger, look how much of the left side is over that tilt axis, and his left arm is catching up to that tilt axis related to his top of his swing to the golf ball, where Harrison has a lot of catching up to do. As we get down to impact, we can see in the same body position, Tiger's already struck the ball. Harrison's a little bit behind the ball because he's having to play catch up. We can see the shoulders are very similar tilt axis. So let's draw that one now. What color we used? Orange. So we can see Tiger's shoulders and Harrison's shoulders are in a similar tilting position. But look how close Tiger's shoulders are relative to the ball tilt, which was based on his hip tilt and knee tilt. Hands are slightly ahead. Harrison's hasn't even caught up yet. We can see the hip tilt and we can see the knee tilt. So the hips and the knees aren't moving as much because they didn't lose their tilting. As we get to impact with Harrison, we can see his hip tilt is coming off slightly and there's his knee tilt. So we see more motion. And what we can look at the footwork is, look at Harrison is still turning as well, and he's got his weight stuck on his toes. His right heel isn't planted, where Tiger has done a really good job changing his swing from his younger days to planting that right foot and getting more of a drive this way with his body. And as we keep on going through, we can see that nice extension. What you'll notice is look at how straighter that right leg is, and it's riding up that same tilt line, where Harrison, you can see it's breaking down because he's had to tilt so much back the other way, and we can see as a result he's leaning behind the golf ball as he strikes it. So clearly the upper body for Harrison on the right side is not over enough because he had to fight that tilt. He had to untilt, and he did a little bit too much. And if we come on through, we can see this nice finish here. Now Harrison's body's kind of caught up, but it's a little bit too late. Where Tiger's, we can see that tilt is kind of following his tilt. Now his whole body's kind of leaning against that yellow line. Now, if that wasn't confusing enough for you, I've redrawn some lines here. We kept that same ball line related to his tilting at the top of his swings and impact line. So the tilting at the top of the swing is the green line, the impact tilt is the red line. What we're going to do now is draw a straight line that intersects the two, and we can see where the Tiger's intersects right through and where Harrison's intersect right through. So which one is closer to the golf ball? Obviously Tiger. And not only are we closer to the golf ball, but you can see how much of the body is behind those tilting axes. So if we draw an arrow, we can see most of Tiger's body is behind this axis. Where we take a look at what Harrison's doing, you can see most of his hips is over the axis, and then it shifts to most of his upper body's over that axis. So this is what I mean. If you use your axes correctly, you're tilting correctly, you can load your weight effectively. But this is a sign of a slight reverse pivot because it is too much rotation pulling him out of his posture. So if this was me recommending something for him to do, is to limit his backswing turn. We don't need that much turn because we only destroy our good tilting to rock back to the target unless you are flexible like Mr. Gumby. So the moral of the story is, if you have increased tilt, you are going to have to untilt somehow to strike that golf ball. Then ball position plays a part. That messes with your release, that messes with your angle of your attack, with your path, with your plane, and it all stems from this thing we hear out there all the time. You have to turn as much as you can, but there is a possibility that when you turn too much, your body cannot hold it, and it starts to tilt and lose its posture to maintain that. So there is some mad science behind all these lines. I hope you did enjoy this. I hope you at least got some extra tools to work with to help you identify some tilting issues when you do this at your home computer or nowadays on your phone or iPad. But if you have any questions, leave the comment below, and I will be doing a swing evaluation on a professional pretty soon. I don't know who I'm going to do it on, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know on the bottom. And don't forget, if you do enjoy this, please hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and help us educate more students and support low-income children in Cape Flat, South Africa. Have a great day, everybody. Fairways and greens.